Chosen ones. If only you knew the truth they've been hiding from you. For centuries, the world has been built to condition, distract, and program people into fitting a mold. But you've always felt like you didn't quite belong, not because something's wrong with you, but because something's right. People sense your energy, your depth, and your intuition, and it unsettles them. From ancient texts to spiritual traditions, there's always been the idea of the anointed, the called out ones, those born with a sacred assignment. But what if that's not just mythology? What if it's you? Take the story of Amara, a young girl who was never accepted, not because she lacked anything, but because she carried too much light for others to understand. That light isn't fictional, it's symbolic of what many of you carry within. Studies on highly intuitive individuals show they often face intense opposition, emotional isolation, and deep inner conflict, not because they are weak, but because they are spiritually attuned. The suppression of truth, especially spiritual truth, has long been a tactic used by institutions and societies to maintain control. Why tell you you're chosen when it's easier to keep you confused, afraid, and small? But like Amara in the library, you may stumble upon something, a book, a person, a moment that stirs your soul. That moment is no accident. It's a divine whisper reminding you you were never meant to conform, you were meant to awaken. Being chosen doesn't mean life will be easy. It means your purpose is powerful. It means you'll often walk alone, but it also means you're never truly lost. You're just on a path only a few will understand. And now, as this message reaches you, you have a choice. Keep hiding in the illusion or step into your truth. Remember, the world fears what it cannot control, and it could never control the chosen. So ask yourself, what have they tried so hard to keep you from remembering? Because your awakening starts now. Let's go. Point 1. You were hidden for a reason. You were not overlooked. You were shielded. That may sound like a comforting phrase, but it's far more profound than a simple reassurance. It speaks to something divine, something intentional. There's a reason your journey looked different from those around you. While others seem to fly through life with ease, laughing, fitting in, thriving in social circles, getting picked, praised, and promoted, you often felt like the outsider, the misunderstood, the one who walked alone. But let me tell you a secret hidden in the quiet corners of spiritual truth. You were never being ignored. You were being hidden for a reason. You see, when something is valuable, rare, sacred, irreplaceable, it's not left out in the open for just anyone to access. Precious diamonds are formed under pressure and concealed beneath layers of rock for millions of years. Pearls are hidden deep within the shells at the bottom of the ocean. Even the world's most beautiful treasures are kept from public view until they are ready, refined, shaped, and worthy of display. Likewise, the Most High does not place his rarest creations out in plain sight before their time. If your path has been quieter, more isolated, or more painful than others, it's not because you're lacking, it's because you are becoming. Just like a seed, your potential had to be planted in darkness. That season of loneliness, it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. In botany, a seed must undergo a process called imbibition, absorbing water in darkness before it can sprout. This darkness is essential. It activates the seed's DNA and transforms it from dormant to alive. Without that hidden stage, growth would be impossible. Likewise, every betrayal, every tear-soaked pillow, and every why me God moment served a purpose. It cracked your shell. It humbled your spirit. It taught you how to hear your inner voice and the whisper of God above the noise. Let's talk science for a second. Trees that grow in windy environments grow deeper roots than those in calm conditions. Why? Because they're forced to anchor themselves firmly to survive. That's you. Your storms weren't meant to destroy you. They were sent to root you, to prepare you to stand tall when it's time for your greatness to be revealed. Now here's the beautiful twist. You weren't buried. You were planted. There's a massive difference between the two. Buried things are meant to stay down. Planted things are meant to rise. The soil that covered you wasn't meant to suffocate. It was meant to nourish. The silence that surrounded you wasn't meant to mute your voice. It was meant to sharpen your discernment. While the world rushed ahead, you were undergoing a sacred transformation beneath the surface. And now it's your season to rise. The conditions have changed. The shell is broken, the roots are strong, the sun is shining, and the world is about to witness what God's been building in secret. Don't let anyone tell you that your delayed growth was a mistake. It was a strategy, a divine one. You're not behind, you're right on time, for your time. Those who overlooked you will be the ones watching from the sidelines in awe. Those who misjudged you will finally understand. And those who thought you were buried will see you bloom with purpose, power, and poise. So step into your season without fear. Bloom boldly. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine development. You've been hidden, protected, and prepared. Now it's your time to rise. Point 2. Your identity was cloaked by design. Chosen ones, have you ever paused to ask why people have tried to define you with labels that never quite fit? You're too quiet. You're too intense. You feel too deeply. You think too much. Since childhood, society tried to box you into categories you never chose. Misfit, oddball, loner, rebel. But here's the truth they don't want to admit. They labeled you not because you were lacking, but because you carried something they couldn't explain. And when people don't understand something powerful, their instinct is to either fear it or try to control it. Psychologists have long observed that people fear what challenges their worldview. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But you, Earth Angel, are not terrifying, you are simply true. Your energy disrupts illusions, so naturally, people tried to dilute your presence with false identities. It wasn't about who you were, it was about what you represented. You were never too much. You were exactly the dose of truth the environment needed but couldn't handle. And here's the kicker. The enemy knew who you were before you did. Yes, the spiritual enemy, the one that operates through confusion, fear, and distraction, saw your light long before you understood it. So he launched a campaign not to destroy you in the obvious sense, but to distract you from yourself, to pull you so far from your divine nature that you'd question your worth, shrink your voice, or over-explain your soul. He knew that if he couldn't break you, he could blur you. But God, oh yes, God had another plan, like Superman raised as Clark Kent. Your identity was intentionally cloaked. Your powers were hidden not out of shame, but for safety. You were being protected. See, a diamond doesn't lose its value when it's buried in the dirt. It just hasn't been discovered yet. You weren't late to your purpose. You were being prepared. God had you tucked away, sharpening your discernment in silence, training your heart in secret, because he knew once your gifts were revealed, you'd shake the very foundations of darkness. And you are. Every person who misunderstood you, every false accusation, every attempt to box you in or shut you down, those weren't random acts of cruelty. They were failed attempts to rewrite the story God already wrote about you. But the thing about divine assignments is they don't expire based on human opinions. What's yours is still yours. And no label, no lie, no delay, and no demon can take that away. The story is flipping now, can't you feel it? The same people who tried to reduce you are watching you rise. And here's the beauty in it. You don't even need to retaliate. Because while they sit with the discomfort of their regret, you walk with the confidence of your revelation. You were never the labels they gave you. You were the lesson they had to learn. So stand tall, Earth Angel, no longer Clark Kent. Your cape is showing. You don't have to apologize for your light, your depth, or your divine difference. The labels are falling off, the full stories are unraveling, and your true identity is taking center stage, not because you forced it, but because it's time. Point 3. You were trained in silence. Have you ever felt like your life was one long, drawn-out, silent season? Like you were stuck on pause while everyone else was out there glowing up, getting promotions, signing deals, finding love, and posting those "look at me now" moments? Meanwhile, you were just waiting in the shadows, feeling unseen, questioning everything, watching people win battles you didn't even get to fight. If that's ever been you, if that's you right now, then listen closely, because what I'm about to say will change how you see your story. God trains his warriors in private. Let that sink in for a moment. Your silent season wasn't punishment, it was preparation. It was your spiritual boot camp. See, everyone wants to slay Goliath, but nobody talks about the years David spent alone in the fields, wrestling lions and bears. He wasn't posting highlights, he wasn't taking selfies with the sheep. He was grinding in obscurity, developing strength, courage, and most of all, faith. Faith that would later carry him through the battle that made him a legend. In the world's eyes, silence looks like stagnation, but in the kingdom, silence is sacred. It's where the real work happens. Science tells us that seeds grow in the dark. You don't get fruit without a season of unseen germination. Likewise, spiritual growth often happens away from the spotlight, in the quiet places where no applause is heard, only the whispers of God. Chosen ones, if you've been in a silent season, It's not because you were forgotten, it's because you were being formed. During that time, you were learning discernment, how to tell the difference between what glitters and what's gold. You were being taught to listen for God's voice, not people's validation. You were learning to survive, not on likes or affirmation, but on obedience and revelation. That's rare, that's holy. And that kind of development can't be microwaved or live-streamed. Even athletes in elite training camps aren't on the main stage. They're in sweat-soaked gyms, running drills, pushing through pain, and repeating the basics until mastery becomes muscle memory. Same with you, your prayers in the midnight hour, your tears that no one saw, your quiet obedience when it looked like nothing was changing. All of that was part of the process. That silence wasn't empty, it was pregnant with purpose. And here's the twist. While you thought you were being delayed, you were actually being deployed, slowly, intentionally, divinely. The world thought you were on pause, but heaven had hit play. Angels were being dispatched. Doors were being built with your name on them. God was crafting a stage for your voice, your gift, and your assignment. And He didn't need an audience to do it. The next time you feel forgotten, remember this. God hides His best warriors before He reveals them, because what's formed in private has the power to stand in public without crumbling. That's why He didn't rush your process. He wasn't trying to break you, He was trying to build you. So don't despise your silent season. Don't curse the days that felt like nothing. Because while you were being still, your spirit was being fortified. You were being trained to carry what others can't. You were being refined so that when your moment comes, and it will come, you won't just show up, you'll stand up. Unshakable, undeniable, unapologetically chosen. And when people finally see the strength you've gained, they'll call it overnight success. But you'll know. You'll smile because only you and God know the price of the private process, and you'll thank Him for the silence that sanctified you, for the stillness that strengthened you, and for the shadows that shaped you. Because sometimes the greatest proof of your calling is what God did with you when no one was watching. Point 4, you were surrounded by illusions. This world is full of distractions, smoke and mirrors designed to keep you small. From the moment you were old enough to walk, talk, and dream, the world started trying to shape you, not into your truest self, but into something acceptable. You were taught who to be, how to act, and what success should look like. Go to school, get good grades, climb the corporate ladder, stay quiet, fit in. These weren't just suggestions, they were unwritten rules designed to trap you in an identity that was never truly yours. And then came the illusions. Fake friends who smiled while secretly competing with you. Fake goals like chasing money or popularity just to feel worthy. Fake love, where affection had conditions, and acceptance was a transaction. Maybe you played the part for a while, maybe you tried to fit in, followed the script, and said the right things at the right time. But deep inside, it felt wrong, off, foreign. That gnawing discomfort you felt, that wasn't weakness. That was your spiritual DNA sounding the alarm, because you weren't designed to live by lies. You, chosen one, are encoded with something divine, a truth frequency that cannot be diluted or deceived. You see, there's a reason you could never quite fake it. You can't pretend to be okay when your soul is screaming for authenticity. You can't laugh at jokes that hurt others, follow trends that make no sense to your spirit, or chase dreams that don't light up your inner flame. Even in a room full of people playing the game, you've always sensed what was real and what wasn't. That is not a curse, it's your calling. Psychologists call this high sensitivity to authenticity, a trait often found in empaths, intuitives, and spiritually awakened individuals. It means your nervous system is wired to detect emotional lies, social manipulation, and false energy. You may not be able to explain how, but you know when someone isn't being real. You feel it in your body, anxiety, exhaustion, irritation. That's your soul saying, this isn't the place. And the world, it doesn't like truth bearers. That's why it tried to mold you. The system doesn't want questioners, it wants performers. But you were never meant to perform. You were meant to provoke. You were never meant to conform. You were born to confront. The illusions were loud. Social media, status games, the pressure to fit in, it's a never-ending performance. But your spirit, it refused to stay quiet. Even when your voice trembled, even when you felt alone, there was something inside you that said, this can't be it. That was your truth, fighting its way through the noise. And let's be clear, this world needs you, now more than ever. In a time where lies are glamorized and distractions rule our lives, your presence is a reminder of something higher. Your unwillingness to fake it challenges people to check their own masks. Your raw honesty inspires others to look within. You might lose people along the way, that's okay. When truth walks in, lies walk out. And you weren't born to be everyone's comfort zone. You were born to awaken. You were born to peel back the layers, to shine light in the dark corners, and to disrupt cycles of deception. That's what makes you a chosen one. Not perfection, not popularity, but purpose. So let them call you too much, too sensitive, or too intense. That just means they haven't met someone like you before, someone who doesn't bow to illusion. Let them wonder how you always see what's really going on. Let them squirm when your silence speaks louder than their noise. You were born for this. This world gave you fake scripts, but your spirit refused the role. You didn't come here to blend in, you came here to break through, to carry the truth that heals, challenges, and transforms. And you're doing it not by shouting, but by being. So keep walking in truth. You don't need to explain yourself to illusions. Let the fakers keep acting. Let the lost keep performing. Your job is simple. Be real in a world that's forgotten how, because every time you refuse to conform, you remind the world what truth looks like. Point 5. Your battles weren't random. Let's be real. You didn't just go through tough stuff. You went through strategic warfare, the kind that doesn't just scratch the surface, but cuts straight to the soul. The kind that makes you question your worth, your purpose, and even your sanity. Ever stop to wonder why your trauma felt so personal? Why didn't it just come from strangers or passing moments, but from people close to your heart? Family, friends, mentors, people you trusted. Why did it always seem to strike you at your most vulnerable, and at the exact moment you were about to level up? Because it was never random. Your pain had a pattern, your struggle had structure, the attacks weren't coincidences, they were calculated. You were targeted because of your assignment, your calling, your light, your potential. Spiritual warfare doesn't knock on just anyone's door, it comes for those who carry divine weight. The enemy doesn't waste resources on someone with no impact. If you've ever felt like you had a target on your back since birth, it's because you do. The enemy saw your future before you could even speak. He saw the influence you'd have, the lives you'd change, and the generations you'd heal, and he panicked. Think about it. Children of destiny are often hit the hardest and earliest. Moses was targeted in infancy. Jesus was hunted as a baby. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. That kind of betrayal, that level of rejection and isolation, it's a hallmark of the chosen. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. Now here's the plot twist. What the enemy meant for harm, God used for construction. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every sleepless night was used to build a weapon. And that weapon is you. You didn't just survive the storm, you became the storm. Your scars are not signs of damage, they're evidence of divine strategy. You don't walk around with wounds, you walk with proof. Proof that darkness didn't win. Proof that you were built to last. Proof that you've already conquered what others would have crumbled under. And here's the kicker, you still have compassion, you still choose love, you still show up. That's power. Neurologically, trauma reshapes the brain, especially in areas like the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. But healing reshapes it again, this time into something stronger. Studies in post-traumatic growth show that people who endure profound trials often emerge with a deeper sense of purpose, enhanced spiritual awareness, and greater emotional resilience. So even science backs what your spirit already knows. You've been transformed. And let's not forget, your victory isn't silent. Your presence speaks volumes. The same people who mocked you now monitor you. The ones who doubted you now discuss you. You were once the overlooked. Now you're the example. Not because you fought dirty, but because you rose righteously. So the next time you feel tempted to shrink back, to hide your shine, to question your worth, remember this. You were built in the fire, not to be burned, but to become unbreakable. And that makes you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You didn't go through all that for nothing. Your pain had purpose. Your life has a mission. And your survival, that's not luck. It's divine design. So stand tall, speak boldly, move forward. Because you're not just a survivor of warfare, you're a walking, talking, living weapon forged by heaven itself. Point 6, you were given eyes to see through deception. People love to label what they don't understand. You're paranoid, they say, you overthink everything. But let's be real, chosen one, you know better. You're not overanalyzing, you're tuned in. While others are distracted by surface-level sweetness and sparkly facades, you're reading the room in HD. Where they see charm, you see contradiction. Where they hear compliments, you hear control tactics. You're not suspicious, you're spiritually alert. That's a whole different league. Let's break it down. Science has a term for this heightened awareness: interoception, the brain's ability to perceive internal cues like heartbeat and emotions. While most people might miss these signals, yours fire like a spiritual radar. But beyond science, what you've been gifted with is discernment, a deep, God-given ability to perceive truth beyond what the eyes can see or ears can hear. And discernment, when coupled with spiritual sensitivity, makes you nearly impossible to fool. So when someone walks in the room with a big smile but a twisted agenda, you feel it. Their handshake might be firm, their words might be kind, but your spirit senses friction. Why? Because energy doesn't lie. Vibes are real, and you, chosen one, are a walking spiritual sensor. You can smell fake from a mile away, and the truth is, that scares people, because when you're around, masks slip, pretenders stutter, manipulators sweat. You don't even have to say a word, your presence does the work. People get uncomfortable around you, not because you did anything wrong, but because you did something right. You saw them, not just their persona, but their pattern. You didn't fall for their polished pitch. You picked up on their projections. You caught the spirit behind the sentence. That's not paranoia, that's prophetic insight. Heaven made you a lie detector, and when you walk in, darkness doesn't just get nervous, it panics. And let's be honest, they tried to convince you it was a flaw. You're too sensitive. You read too much into things. You need to relax. But deep down, they knew you were right, and that's what made them uncomfortable, because they weren't ready to be seen. What you carry isn't a curse, it's a calling. It's the spiritual X-ray vision that reveals what's hidden. You don't just see people, you see the truth in them. And even when they gaslight you into second-guessing yourself, the truth always rises to the surface. So don't dim it, don't doubt it, don't deny it. Your gift of discernment is sacred, and it's needed more than ever. In a world full of noise, God made you a frequency keeper. While others chase illusions, you walk in insight. While they seek approval, you seek alignment. That's power, and not everyone can handle it. Let them call you paranoid. Let them roll their eyes. One day, when the masks fall and the truth shows up, they'll remember how you saw it all before it happened. And by then, you'll already be 3 steps ahead, walking in purpose, protected by wisdom, and rising in silence. Because, chosen one, you were never crazy. You were just called. Point 7. Your story is just beginning. They looked you in the eye and told you your story was already written, like your fate was sealed by the scars of your past. They whispered that your pain was proof you were unworthy, that your background was baggage, your mistakes were chains, and your struggle meant you'd never rise. But let me tell you something, Earth Angel, they were wrong, so wrong it's almost laughable. Because here's the truth. You haven't even scratched the surface of who you are becoming. Your past wasn't the end of your story, it was the prelude. And if you're still here, breathing, walking, healing, fighting, then God's not done with you, not even close. Think about it. Statistically, most people don't bounce back from the things you've been through. Pain, betrayal, rejection, and trauma. They're not just emotional hurdles. According to psychological research, long-term exposure to adversity can lead to depression, learned helplessness, or even physical illness. But you didn't stay down, you transformed. You used the ashes to fuel your fire. You turned your breakdown into a blueprint for breakthrough. That's not survival, that's divine alignment. You are not a product of your pain, you are proof that grace is real. You're what I call a living prophecy in motion. You're the evidence that destiny can't be cancelled by detours. You're walking around with spiritual receipts. Battle scars that say, I went through hell and I still didn't fold. Every setback you've endured is a setup for the platform God's preparing for you. Remember Joseph in the Bible, sold by his brothers, left for dead, but he rose to power in Egypt and saved a nation. Your story has that same redemptive arc. Your suffering wasn't pointless, it was preparation. Let's talk about that spotlight they tried to keep from you. The moments they tried to mute your voice, hide your shine, and dim your glow. Heaven saw it all, and now that spotlight is turning back on with divine timing. Not to make you famous, but to make your impact undeniable. Your crown isn't coming from the world, it's coming from the kingdom. And when God crowns you, no one can dethrone you. And those doors they slammed in your face, good, let them. Because while they were busy rejecting you, God was busy building a palace with your name engraved on every wall. One door closes and heaven starts designing architecture. You were never meant to walk through the same doors as everyone else. You were meant to build new ones. You're not behind, you're not late, you're becoming. Becoming isn't about being instantly great. It's a process, a divine evolution. Butterflies don't apologize for taking time in the cocoon. Diamonds don't rush the pressure. You're growing in ways they can't see. And when you emerge, it won't just be a glow up, it'll be a God up. So the next time someone tries to limit you to your past, remind them, I'm not who I was. I'm who I'm becoming. You are the plot twist they never saw coming. You are the miracle in motion. You are the chosen one. And the best part, you're just getting started. Chosen ones. Have you ever felt like your life never quite made sense in the way others expected it to? That's because your path was never meant to be ordinary. What you've experienced isn't random. It's divine misdirection, the setbacks, the betrayals, the isolation. They weren't punishments. They were preparations. Society tried to define you by limitations, not by purpose. You were told who you weren't, so you'd never discover the unstoppable force that you. But something is shifting now. You're beginning to remember who you were before the world told you otherwise. Spiritually, many mystics refer to this as the awakening or the veil lifting, a moment when your soul begins to recall its divine origin. Biblically, this echoes scriptures like Jeremiah 1:5, where God declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. You are not forgotten, you were hidden. You are being sharpened in the shadows to emerge as God's silent storm. The world isn't ready for what's coming through you, so stay aligned, stay humble, and stay spiritually lit. You've walked through fire for a reason. Your breakthrough isn't coming, this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your divine chapter.